Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we are going to be discussing a topic that I've been thinking about discussing this for some time, but I wanted to get all my thoughts together before I put it out. So anyway, we're going to be talking about what is annoying and what is overpowered. So what I mean by that, what is an annoying ship to deal with that, for example, it's not hard to counter, but when it's being played decently, it's pretty annoying to deal with. And what is OP? And you can probably guess which ships I've chosen for this by the thumbnail. So, a ship that is annoying to deal with, and one that I originally thought was rather overpowered, but now that I have the ship, I've played it quite a bit, and I understand how it works. It's not really it's not really overpowered. It's quite fairly well balanced. But anyway, let's go ahead and get to the first ship, which is the Worcester. The Worcester, the Tier 10 American light cruiser. And this ship, she is quite hella annoying to deal with, being a battleship main. I've been under the fire of a Worcester many times, but I did bite the bullet and grind it up to her to experience her for myself. And now that I play her, I used to play her a lot, don't play her that much anymore, but now that I've played her and I understand how she works, it's not all that overpowered, and I'll explain why. So, the Worcester, she has 12 guns, and they are 12 152mm guns. They reload in 4 seconds base with my build, and I do believe I do have the main battery mod 3. So, 4 seconds with the modification on there. And they have a firing range of 16.7 kilometers. So, the Worcester, 12 guns that are, they are very HE spammy. And they reload in 4 seconds. And they have a 9% fire chance, and that is with IFHE. So, Worcester, definitely a flamethrower. But, she is pretty dang squishy. It's fairly rare that I don't get some type of decent pin damage off of Worcester when I'm shooting at her, except with something like Yami or Kremlin, because their guns are just so large. And of course, if she is broadside in pretty much any tier 10 battleship, you will more than likely overpin her, but not if you hit her citadel, because her armor is thick enough to where the AP shells will bite, and bye-bye Worcester. On top of that, she doesn't have any type of smokescreen, and she isn't all that maneuverable. She's fairly slow like any American cruiser. I think her top speed's only 33 knots, which at tier 10, that's pretty slow for a light cruiser. And that is also with the speed flag, keep that in mind too. On top of that, she does not have any type of torpedoes, so if I know it's a Worcester, I'm just going to charge it. And those of you that watched my clan battle live streams or most videos where I come across a Worcester, if I know it's just him there or a bunch of American ships, there's no reason not to charge it. There's no way for them to instantly delete you when you get close in, and then, they're over. On top of that, she can't really run because, like I said, she's pretty slow, 33 knots. Pretty much every tier 10 battleship except for the Kremlin and Yami can keep a fair pace with her and deal with her. Granted, that's probably is what they want you to do, because they can kite a fair amount of damage off of you as well. So, also, she is fairly maneuverable. She can dance pretty well, but if you're dancing, she's just going to go pretty slow, and then bye-bye Worcester. Oh, and her armor, for those of you that are curious, she has 25mm of bow armor, 25mm of side armor, 127mm on her citadel, and her citadel is above the waterline. So she's a fairly squishy ship that can be dealt with pretty easily, and I did, for a very long time, think this ship was overpowered because of, 12 guns, they reload in 4 seconds, have a 9% fire chance with IFHE. It's pretty annoying to be under HE spam from this thing, but you know that they're probably hugging an island, and if you can somehow get around to them, then they're pretty much done at that point. And they are also American HE shells, which means they hang in the air for an eternity, before they come crashing down on you. So you have a decent chance of dodging them in a battleship. I know, just dodge. But, I mean, they don't move all that fast, and even from fairly close ranges, they're still pretty dang floaty. Anyone who's played American destroyers or American cruisers know this. Or American battleships. American battleship AP is also just as floaty as the cruiser HE. So the second ship we're going to talk about, and it's been my favorite ship to talk about for the past couple of weeks or so, is the Smolensk. So the Smolensk. Same type of general playstyle as the Worcester, HE spam things to death. There are a couple of differences, and we're going to talk about those right now. So, like the Worcester, she has a bunch of small caliber guns. She has 16 130 millimeter guns with a 4-second flat firing time with main battery mod 3 and an 8% chance of causing a fire on the target. So she has 1% less than the Worcester, but she has 4 more. She has 4 more guns than the Worcester too. So keep that in mind. And with IFHE, she has a her armor penetrating rating is 28 millimeters, and I do believe the Worcester's is a bit more than that with IFHE. Yes, because she does have 152s, so hers is 32 millimeters. So Smolensk, as you guys have seen me play her and talk about her, that she doesn't really get that much damage from pins with her HE. It's the insane fires that she can set. On the first video of the ship ever being on the channel, I think I think it was like 35 fires were set in one match. That's insane. On top of that, her main battery firing range is 16.6 kilometers, but if you really want to, you can push it out to, I think, 18 or 19 kilometers. Granted, at that range, you're not going to be hitting all that much. Now, her shells, it's Soviet HE, and they do not hang around in the air for long unless you're shooting at close to her maximum range. Everywhere else, her shells are quite accurate, and I think their velocity is like 800 and something, if not more. 950 meters a second, versus the Worcesters, which I think is in the 700s. Let me check real quick. The Worcesters HE shell. Okay, yeah, the HE shell's 812 meters a second, and the AP is 762. So her shells are much more lethargic than the Smolensk. So just right there, already the Smolensk has the better guns for getting shells on target quickly, but the Worcester is going to do way more pin damage because of the 32 millimeters of pin with IFHE. So you can see that the guns, they do their damage in different ways. Worcester's more of their pins, with a fair chance to start a few fires, where the Smolensk is more of just pure fires, unless they're shooting at something like a cruiser or a destroyer. Now let's look at what Smolensk has that Worcester does not. First off, torpedoes. Smolensk has some pretty actually decent torpedoes for her tier. She gets 2x5, so one set of 5 torpedoes on each side. They have a range of 8 kilometers and a speed of 60 knots. So if something does decide to charge you, which would be a fair response to a Smolensk popping smoke in front of you, these torpedoes, they can probably, by the time, if you're rushing a Smolensk in smoke in a battleship, you're probably going to lose at least a third of your health before you get into it. I mean, like, if your bow and RNG is being mean to them, then, they're not setting all that many fires. You will lose at least a third of your health. And by the time you get there, well, Smolensk has hydro, and plus if you're in a battleship or a cruiser or even a destroyer, and you're shooting at them, so maybe not destroyer, they know where you're at. And if not, they do have hydro. Which Worcester does have hydro too, and defensive AA fire and radar, something that Smolensk does not have. She does not have radar or defensive fire for AA guns, which doesn't really matter because her AA rating's so high. It's pretty much a no-fly zone. On top of that, Smolensk has a smoke screen, which Worcester does not. Granted, it doesn't last all that long, but it's still a smoke screen. So Smolensk can hide in smoke and just burn you away willy-nilly. Now, with a Smolensk 28mm of pin, it would be enough to pin the bow of something like a Worcester, But again, this is really a direct comparison between the two ships. We're just looking at annoying versus overpowered. And the downside of the Smolensk is that it does not have all that much bow armor either. It has 16 millimeters of bow armor, which is pretty much nothing. 30 millimeters of side armor and 70 millimeters of citadel armor, which means that this ship is insanely easy to overpin. Even in some heavy cruisers, you can easily overpin the Smolensk. Now, again, it could be good, it can be bad. Against lighter ships like destroyers and other light cruisers, they can easily pin you. You guys have seen me deleting Smolensk quite easily, and Minotaurs. They can easily overpin you and ruin your day. But against anything with any slightly large guns, you're going to get mostly overpin, which is very frustrating to say the least. So on top of all that, there isn't a whole lot of downsides for the Smolensk. So crappy armor, which is a plus and a minus, so I guess we can kind of just throw that out, does handle like not a small content. I guess it handles like it's always drifting. It doesn't turn all that well. It's slow to accelerate, but it is actually faster than the Worcester at 36.8 knots, and that is with the speed flag. Great AA, Soviet shells, and smoke, hydro, torpedoes. There honestly isn't a whole lot going against the Smolensk. So in summary, the pros of the Worcester: rapid firing guns, decent range. It has hydro, radar, and defensive AA. But going against it, you have it's slow, it's armored enough to where it can be easily deleted, no smokescreen, and lethargic HE shells. Now, the pros of the Smolensk are it's got the great Soviet shells, hydro, smokescreen, torpedoes. It's fairly quick. It does get a heal, and and Worcester does get a heal too, so you can throw that on there as well. Its armor is so bad that it's actually good, and it does have 16 guns that fire in 4 seconds. And going against it, all you really have is it's not that maneuverable. That's really the only big downside of the Smolensk, is that it turns like a large cruiser, when it's not really that big of a cruiser. So, and it has really good AA, but both ships have really good AA. So this is what I'm saying when something's OP versus annoying. Now you can do this with another ship, the Harugumo, the Tier 10 Japanese gunboat. It's a big destroyer, really rapid firing guns, has a smokescreen, has the torpedo reload booster, but it only has one set of torpedo tubes. But it literally handles like a cruiser instead of a destroyer. Only one set of torpedo tubes. It does not get the new BB AP pin that the other destroyers get. The other destroyers, for those who don't know, a while ago they turned down the amount of damage that battleship AP shells do against destroyers. Harugumo didn't get that, and that's a really, really, really big downside. And it doesn't have a heal, and it is also extremely slow. So the Harugumo has to give up quite a lot to be this fantastic gunboat, whereas against something like the Smolensk, it doesn't really give up too much. And I mean, as far as Russian bias goes, the Smolensk, in my opinion, is probably the clearest example of Russian bias in the game currently. So that's my thoughts on that. And again, I know people are just going to say, well, you just don't like the Smolensk because you're a battleship player, and that's your opinion. But I mean, the Worcester, I did what people recommended to me, which was get the ship, play it, understand its weaknesses, and exploit it. And I did the same thing with Smolensk. I did the same thing with Harugumo too. And I did the same thing with Smolensk, but my mind hasn't changed too much about the Smolensk. I do think it's not as overpowered as I thought it was, but I still do certainly believe that it is overpowered and needs some tweaking. But anyway, that's my thoughts on this, and I just wanted to give you guys an example of my line of thinking. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you like the video, make sure you drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. We are on our way to 6,000 subscribers. We are almost halfway there already, which is freaking insane. I cannot thank you guys enough for that. So I hope you all having a wonderful Thursday, and hope to catch you guys in the next one.